Welcome to the Feminine Wave. Today's episode will be focusing on conscious abundance, real prosperity. Our discussion will be about career, mindset, finances, abundance, and prosperity. Our guest today is Alanna Kaivalya, PhD. She's a mythologist, entrepreneur, and founder of The Satisfied Woman, a movement, method, and mentorship ecosystem devoted to helping women reclaim feminine power and create lives rooted in sovereignty, softness, and self-worth. After building and selling multiple seven-figure businesses in the wellness space, earning her doctorate in mythological studies, depth and psychology, and authoring 5 books, including The Way of the Satisfied Woman, Reclaiming Feminine Power, Alanna now guides women through deep personal and professional reinvention. Through coaching, courses, and community at thesatisfiedwoman.com, she helps women dismantle the systems of self-abandonment and overgiving and step into a life of embodied success on their own terms. I am so thrilled and excited to introduce everyone to Alanna Kaivalya. And how did I do on the pronunciation?
Perfect. Nailed it.
Yes, because I sometimes get tongue twisted. And so anyway, so happy to have you here with us.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, Tara. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, I just want to tell people a little bit of my introduction into how I found you,
Okay.
just so that they can understand I am just tingling all over having you here. So, actually a masculine friend of mine actually recommended your book. Here it is, The Way of the Satisfied Woman. Woohoo! And from the minute I started reading it, it just all of the things that I've already been learning about the feminine, especially, and it all just like gears, falling into place. It just made a really good foundation for me in my understanding and embodiment and all of that. And the big part of it is you talk about intuition.
Yeah.
And we don't talk enough about that.
No, we don't, because it's been vilified and really scary and overlooked and dismissed as a completely valid way to make great decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a huge gift that the feminine has.
I call it one of the feminine superpowers, actually, intuition. Our intuition and our emotional depth, which is something that we have intimate and deep connection and access to as feminine women, is one of our greatest strengths. And it's become, or it has been in history, scary because it is unknown. It doesn't come from logic or reason. You're not always able to figure it out. And that can, fly in the face of masculine logic and reason. And so the easiest way to get rid of it is to just dismiss it and shut it down. And um, it's been so pervasive, this idea that intuition is scary or not valid, that even women believe it. Even women second guess themselves. And they do what I call self-abandonment, where when we don't pay attention to our intuition and we issue a yes instead of the no that we're feeling, we're leaving ourselves behind. We're forgetting ourselves and we're abandoning ourselves, which is usually really ironic because we often say yes to things that we want to say no to in order to try to be included. So we're trying to be included and not abandoned by the people we're saying yes to. And in doing that, we're actually abandoning ourselves anyway. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
Oh, wow, that is so right on.
Yeah.
And just having you say it that way out loud,
Mm,
it's much more recognizable when I notice that I do that.
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things that I do when I work with women one on one. And I have the great privilege to work with women as a coach one on one and in my membership and in groups and stuff. There's almost this, as soon as I start to speak things like that out loud, it's like light bulbs go off and this inner recognition of, oh, now that makes sense. That's why it always feels so bad. That's why I feel like I've lost myself. That's why I feel like, I'm always being left behind or not getting my needs met because so much of our behavior, and there's no blame here. It's just, I call it improper training. Our cultural training has improperly trained us to really understand who we are as feminine women. So there's no blame or anything, but it's so normalized, this behavior. It's so normalized to overlook and dismiss and diminish intuition that we don't think about the fact that it doesn't feel good or that it is actually wrong for us.
Right, because then I'm fighting within myself
Mm-hmm.
what I know my truth is
Yeah.
and not accepting it.
Yep.
Oh, man, this is huge for me, especially. So,
It's huge for everybody, Tara. Trust me.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You are not alone.
oh, good. All right. Well, I didn't think I was. And so I don't say things for other people. I just take my own
Yeah.
story. And so, what could you say to women who, you would like to teach them to trust that again?
Yeah. So, one of the first exercises that I do um, with women that I'm working with is just really reconnecting to intuition. There's great news here. We're already connected to it. It's already inbuilt. You don't have to spruce it up or go out and buy one. You have it. You've just been ignoring it for so long that either you don't really recognize it or you don't remember it. So the first practice I do is a really simple practice of anchoring your no, your full bodied no. The feminine woman is embodied. We feel things. I mean, think about the way that, our hormonal cycles fluctuate everything. Our emotions are always in play. We are feelers. That's again, it's one of our superpowers. It's nothing to shy away from or to try to overcome. I would say lean into it. So the first practice is simply to just really feel like I have women close their eyes and take them back to a recent time where they felt a no. And it's likely, because this is how it goes, a time where we felt a no, but then said yes. So, whatever the feeling of no was, and it's often going to be some feeling, some version of bad, a heaviness, a tightness, butterflies in the stomach, the throat tightening up, pressure somewhere, darkness. And so I have them identify what it feels like in their body because we're all unique and different. So it may feel different for other women, but don't second guess it, don't ignore it, feel the no, and then anchor to that. So, anchoring to it, meaning you're acknowledging the body's sensation, that this is an inner communication from you to you. And then I have them imagine, because amazingly, the brain does not know the difference between a real and an imagined experience. I have them imagine what that scenario would have felt like if they not only had felt the no, but then issued the no. What if they had said it in that context? Some women actually get a little bit of anxiety when I ask them to do this because of something else that I call feminine guilt. Women don't feel guilty for behavior that they've done wrong. They feel guilty in anticipation of making other people feel bad.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nervous system dysregulation in that. So sometimes if I have them imagine this full-bodied no, and then what happens if you say the no, panic arises because it might disappoint somebody else. I say, okay, stay with it, and after all that falls away, how do you feel having honored yourself? How do you feel having, spoken your truth or been in alignment with your needs? And then they start to feel that lightness or that sensation of yes. Because the feminine phrase is no. This is how we draw boundaries. This is how we keep our container steady. This is how we define our shape in the world and take up space. The masculine phrase is yes. That doesn't mean that the masculine should all be yes men and that the women should all be naysayers. It means that when we balance the tension of this yes and no, we all find our sacred middle and the exact places that we're supposed to be, walk, inhabit, experience. But you can't have too much of either, really.
Oh, I love that. Because I play with the balance between and because of, even though I'm a female and
Yeah,
I am primarily feminine energy, I
yeah,
do have a little masculine in there.
we all do.
I know, and just I had this conversation actually yesterday. It's like when driving in my car, I'm
Mhm.
probably a little more of my masculine than I
Yeah.
would be normally.
Absolutely. Well, that's very common. So every human on the planet, these are psychological energies. So every human on the planet has both masculine and feminine, and every individual will tend to lean toward one more than the other. The challenge is when we lean into our opposing polarity too much. And because we live in a primarily masculine patriarchal culture that values masculine ideals over feminine ideals, us feminine women often put on the mask of the masculine far too much. And when we don that heavy mask of the masculine, that is really the source of burnout. And 80% of women report feeling burnt out,
Mhm.
report feeling depleted, report feeling completely drained. This is why. So we have to find it's totally appropriate, especially like, when you're driving your car. I mean, look, I get it. It's a lot of masculinity moving this big machine out on a road for sure. Often in business endeavors, we have to don the mask of the masculine. If we are parents, the role of parenting for young children is a masculine role. You are guiding, you are nurturing, you are leading, you are teaching, you are disciplining. So there's a lot of circumstances where we will put on the mask of the masculine, but we don't want to get stuck there. We want to be able to downshift.
Mhm. I noticed for me, and so just back to the driving real quick, I notice if I'm sitting up like this,
Yeah.
I'll sit back in my seat
Okay.
because that's that's, when I have that awareness and then I feel more comfortable because
Yeah.
I'm more of a natural state for me.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite questions to ask women when I'm working with them, especially when I do a lot of in my coaching work, I do a lot of like kind of hypnotherapy, visualization, exercises to get recalibrated and to get reconnected to intuition. So, one of my favorite questions is, are you comfortable? And the answer is often a perfunctory yes. And then I'll say, okay, but how could you be more comfortable? Then they really think about it. Oh, you know what? I need to adjust my pillow or take off my shoes or cross my legs. But we're so used to just being okay with whatever we're given and then performing to the best of our ability. Most of us don't ask the deeper question of, but wait a minute, is this right? Am I comfortable? Is this okay? And I think we need to start asking those questions because, women are the inquisitors. So
Yeah,
yeah,
nothing changes unless for because that's our gift is
it
we
is.
find something that, whatever our words are to describe it. Yeah, right. So, yes. Oh, so I have a few notes here, so that's why
Okay.
I'm looking down and I'm just ancient myths, modern women, you know, how story shapes our sovereignty. Could
Hmm.
you speak to that? Because that's just
Yeah, that's a fun question. And I adore that you left it so open-ended because I've got so much to say about
okay.
mythology.
Well. We got the
Um,
time.
yeah, so, fun fact, my doctorate is in mythology and depth psychology. So,
Right.
really, the lens through which I look at all of this stuff is certainly a psychological lens, but it is the belief systems and the stories of who we think we are, what we tell ourselves, what we believe, and then how what we believe influences our interactions and behavior in the world. And mythology has long, for, I mean, since humans have been alive, done the work of demystifying the mysterious, helping us understand and come to terms with things that would really otherwise not be very understandable or really difficult to come to terms with. I actually just had an amazing client session this morning where we were talking about how she's very much in planning phase for what she wants to launch in the world, and helping her build her own coaching business. And there's been a lot of process. There's been a lot of planning. And today was the conversation of, okay, but we've got to launch. We've got to get it out there, because if you just have these ideas and this wisdom that the world needs, but you never put it out there, it's almost as if it doesn't exist at all. It doesn't happen. And somehow her psyche turned her face to look at a picture on the wall that she has of an owl. And she says, "Huh, I see my owl looking at me." And I said, "Okay, well, what does an owl mean to you?" And she says, "It reminds me of the goddess Athena, the
Mm,
Greek goddess of war." And I said, "All right." I said, "Let's talk about that, because, Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist, would say when you notice things like that, when things appear to you, those signs are called synchronicity. And that's what is alive for you in your unconscious, and they appear for a reason." So I said, "What does Athena mean to you?" She said, "It's the goddess of war and strategy and, planning." And I said, "Yes, there is strategy and planning, but Athena isn't afraid to go out onto the battlefield and fight the battle. She's going to do it in her way. She's going to do it in a more cunning, strategic way than, say, Ares or Mars, who are shock and awe, throw 3,000 troops on the battlefield, drop all the bombs, and get the job done. Both can win the war, but they're going to do it in their own respective ways, but they never win any battle that they don't fight." So we turned her stuck moment into a story she resonated with to show her the pathway to get to her next step. And that really is the power of mythology, in my mind.
I'm going in my mind, okay, what signs have I had? Where, because I
Yeah.
do recognize them. And
Yeah.
I mean, as simple as being in a car driving, pulling over, having a phone conversation with the girlfriend, because I was on the
Mm-hmm.
phone, so I pulled over, not that
Mm-hmm.
I was holding it, and she says, "Well, where do you want to be?" Because I was dissatisfied in my current location where I was.
Sure.
And my head looks up, I look at the car I'm parked behind, has Colorado plates on it.
And as we discovered earlier today, my friend, you are on Mountain Standard Time.
Yes. So, and sometimes the universe isn't always so blatant.
Yeah.
But I do understand, and I love that, how you frame that up for her in Athena,
Yeah.
and that could be this new story for her.
Well, like, psychology is, we think of psychology as a science, and yeah, to some extent it is, but psychology only exists because we've observed people, and people tend to have habits, and you can kind of file them into certain categories, and then you understand better how people's psychology operates. But mythology is still a part of the psyche, and it holds a really special place in the psyche, and it is often overlooked in modern day in favor of science, which, I hope this doesn't ruffle any feathers, but science is also a belief system. In science, we believed the earth was flat for a long time. And now we know, because we've been out there, that the Earth is actually round. And in science, we believed that the Earth was the center of the universe for a long time. And now we know, because of giant telescopes, that we're not even close to the center of anything anywhere. So science also evolves its beliefs, its understandings, its way of perceiving itself and the world. And so if we can just, think of belief systems, which I love to abbreviate as BS, then we can make just a very short leap to the parts of our psyche, the parts of our everyday lives that, are mysterious. We don't know what the meaning of life is. We have to bring meaning to it. We don't know what our purpose is here. We have to find it. We don't know why bad things happen to good people. We create stories around it. And one of the great things about these myths and stories that we've had for so long is that they take a pretty scripted arc. The hero's journey is what Joseph Campbell called it. The hero has to leave his or her home and go out into the world, find a problem, discover what within themselves is also contributing to that problem, resolve it, fight the good fight, and then come back home. So, what stories do, and what it did for my client this morning, and most of the clients that I work with, is they give us a context for where we're at. Because people don't come to a coach like myself or do work with me if everything's flying along great. They show up when there's a challenge and they need support through it. And that's what, coaching or psychology or therapy or memberships or group work or shadow work or whatever it is for. Therefore, when we get to those stuck points, and if we can figure out what the story is, the cosmic question is what myth we're living by. And as my good client this morning realized, she's living by the myth of Athena, then we often get a boost and a hint at what our next steps are. And I think for women in particular, these stories are really rich for us because the domain of the feminine is the unconscious. The domain of the feminine is that dreamscape where these myths are actually birthed. We're so comfortable with myth and story and the unknown that for us to explore that part of ourselves, I think is one of the reasons why we see so many women doing work, therapy, shadow work, self-help, spiritual practice, all of this. It's kind of our wheelhouse.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just going back and remembering things and that um well we're the creativity
Yes.
we're because we're creative and we create
Yes,
literally.
exactly. Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. The feminine has the power of creation. We are the harbingers of creativity. And whether that is in the very literal sense of procreativity, actually birthing a human, or whether it's in the metaphorical sense of birthing a business or birthing an idea or a concept in the world that hasn't existed before, or a book, we have the power of creating something from almost nothing. That is feminine. Even if a man creates something, he's doing it from a feminine energy. That belongs to the feminine. Now, creativity is obviously a key component of our lives, our existence as humans and in the world. But creativity can only happen under certain circumstances. And I'd love to talk about those if we can,
Yes.
because I think a lot of people value creativity. They want to be creative. They Our culture doesn't value intuition. Our culture doesn't value the deep emotions of women, but our culture does value creativity. But if we want access to that precious creativity, we have to, as feminine women, remain connected to our intuitions and our emotions. And this is a non-negotiable, ladies who are listening. You have to have what I call the four keys in place in your life, which are safety, security, trust, and cherishing. If those aren't present, and this is probably going to be another one of those like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense moments, I hope. If those aren't present, you can't force creativity. Any of you know, you all know that you can't just, schedule time from 2 to 4 p.m. this afternoon and go be creative. It has to arise from within you. And it arises from this substrate of the four keys. So, safety means being safe in your mind, body, and heart to be yourself no matter where you are. And now I know like being a woman in the world isn't easy. I remember when I first moved to New York many years ago, the danger I felt just going outside my door and walking down my very busy street. The cat calls, the car honks. I was a young 20s, um, conventionally pretty lady walking down a busy street. It was the first time in a big city. It had nothing to do with New York. New York was very safe and I loved it. But I had come from a much smaller city where I didn't have that kind of exposure. The world historically is less safe for women. So safety can be hard to come by, but hopefully we can carve out corners, curate our lives in such a way that we have places and spaces and relationships and people where we can be safe to be ourselves. Security is having all of your most important needs met. I don't care what they are. Not just a roof over your head and food on your table. If you have a deep need to feel the wind in your hair and ride a motorcycle, I want that for you. If you have a deep need for a certain sort of aesthetic because it makes you feel who you are in the world, I want that for you too. So, the ability to have your needs either provided for or for you to be able to provide them for yourself is essential to your security. If we don't have our needs met, we're in panic mode.
Mhm.
Trust is both self trust, and for the feminine woman, self trust comes from listening to your intuition and always following it. I don't mean some of the time. I don't mean most of the time. I mean all of the effing time. That's self trust. You have that. You're on your way to having the four keys, but you also need to trust the people around you. And when it comes to our masculine counterparts, that trust is embodied when they make choices with our highest good in mind. Those are trustworthy decisions, and those are people we can trust. And then finally, to be cherished by our masculine counterparts or our inner masculine, that we allow our own internal masculine energy to be at the service of our feminine because that's our primary polarity, or that the masculine around us cherish us enough to never leave us alone in our pain until a solution is reached that feels good. So if we don't have those four keys, we've got to get them. And a lot of the work that I do with women is helping them to recognize where these four keys are missing and then to be accountable and hold their boundaries enough to make sure that they have them. Because that's where pleasure will come from. That's where creativity will come from. That's where joy will come from. All of the good things, your abundance, the ability to receive, which let me tell you something, Tara. The masculine and the feminine earn money differently. Okay, we
Ooh.
all want money. Money is an energy. Money is just money. Money's neutral. Money can be had by all. But the masculine goes out and chases it. The masculine goes out and earns it, works for it, reaches for it, aspires to it. The feminine receives it, accepts it, magnetizes it, draws it in. Each polarity can make a whole bunch of money. The amount is not capped or limited by either, but the way it's made energetically is very different. If abundance is something that's on your list to earn, you've got to have these four keys in place. That's the only way you magnetize. Because if you're feeling panicked because your needs aren't met, you're going to start to go out and chase. And then you're out of alignment with who you are, you're inauthentic, and then everything falls apart.
Oh my gosh, you are so right on.
Well, thank you so much for the affirmation. I appreciate that.
Oh, well, and because like I said briefly, and what I've said to you previous,
Mhm.
I've been working on my feminine. And
Mhm.
so, and I am, when you listed those four keys, it's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And you got that right.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I only believe that I have some of these things right, and I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but through having lived a lifetime of getting them wrong. I did what society and this culture had me believe was the right and best thing for a human to do. I was raised in the early 80s where the narrative was you're a woman, you can do anything, but you should also do everything for everyone else too. You can be anything that you want, but you should also still smile, be pretty, and not be too offensive. You don't need a man, but you should probably get one because that's what we'll applaud you most for. I will never forget that within 7 days of each other, I received my PhD and got engaged. I posted about both on social media. Guess which one by far and away was more applauded by my peers?
Getting engaged.
Yep.
Isn't that's sad?
It really gave me pause, Tara,
Yeah.
because I tell you which one I worked much harder for.
Yeah, the PhD,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I know, I get it. My
Yeah.
dad had one, and I know how hard he worked for that.
It
And
yeah, and honestly, it's one of the things I'm most proud of. I mean, I that particular marriage, by the way, didn't end, or it ended. It didn't end well. It was another learning curve for me on my road to understanding what satisfaction means for a woman, and so I'm very grateful for it. But looking back, and my dad taught me hindsight is 2020. Looking back, the thing that really gives me character, the thing that really makes me proud of who I am as a human in the world today is that work. The intensity, the tenacity, the purpose I receive from this academic work that I do and the relational work that I do as well. It is a pleasure to be loved by another human being, but I don't have to earn that, you
nope,
know? It's a
you,
gift.
it's a gift, and because you are here,
Yeah.
you are meant to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we all, like the luck of the draw, we all hope that we get it and find it and attract the right one to us by nature of our own authenticity and being in alignment with who we are. But, it will be received when it is time to be received. But boy, that PhD, I tell you something, I worked my butt off for it.
Yeah, and congratulations. I know that
Thanks.
is a big feat.
Yeah, no, it was
And
fun.
so you absolutely should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. But I also, I don't highlight it to pat myself on the back. I really
No,
highlight it because I think that what we value in women is still shifting. And I think even what we value in ourselves as women is still shifting. So I'm very excited, and I say this a lot on my own podcast, that we actually do live in a time and a place where, as women, we have more power, privilege, and agency than we have ever had before. And we're not there by any means at the end, but I have more power and agency right now than my mother did, certainly than my grandmother did. I mean, women weren't even allowed to have their own bank account without a male cosigner until 1974.
yes, I have a story.
Do
I
you?
I do because that's when my parents were separating and getting a divorce. I remember my mother, I don't know if she was arguing, but she was having a heated discussion with the bank manager because they weren't going to grant her her own, account, which
That
crazy.
we can earn money, but we can't manage it. We can't keep it. We can't put it in a bank account. I mean, I really want women everywhere to recognize how far we have come and to give ourselves some grace.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do a lot is just ask women to start questioning. Just because we've been sold a bill of goods doesn't mean it was the right one. This world, this culture was not made for us. It wasn't made with us in mind. But we have a chance right now to offer more of our voice and our needs to it. And I think that with the work that each of us does as individuals, we can start to shift the playing field a bit, not only for ourselves, but for our sisters, and then for all of the women who are coming up after us. Because I don't know about you, Tara, but as mostly great as we have it right now, I want things to be even better. And I don't want the women who come after me to worry about anything at all. I don't want them to worry about their safety or their security or being cherished or whether this world is trustworthy for them. So, it starts with us as individuals and hopefully it has a big, big effect as it trickles out.
I totally concur. And yeah, I take it as a badge of honor
Mm.
and as part of my purpose why I'm here, to make
Yeah.
it better for the women who come after us.
Isn't that what the feminine wave is about?
It's exactly what the feminine wave is all about. Making change.
Mhm.
And, you were talking about polarity earlier, and, because we have the flow and
Yeah.
it is possible. It doesn't have to be one way or another. And like you said, we have so much more uh,
Yeah.
at our fingertips now than the women who came before us.
We do. And, I also, on some level, want to issue a bit of an apology in advance to all the women listening who are like, yeah, I want to make change. You can and you will. And today we have more power, choice, and agency. And it's going to take a lot of work. And I apologize because women are already doing so much work. We are doing so much emotional labor. We are the emotional calibrators of any space we're in. We're being asked to hold the emotional resilience, oftentimes, of our partners, our loved ones, our families. We're already doing too much work, and so I just want to acknowledge the fact that this is going to be a little more work.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping that it's going to create the kind of rewards and conditions for you to finally be able to rest. And I also want to issue a bit of a public service announcement, if I might.
Absolutely.
Which this has been coming up for me a lot this week, Tara. So I'd love to hear what you think about it because, one of the things, I mean, even this podcast, and I do my own podcast and write blogs and the book and, all the things that you put out in the world, content is, they say, king at this time, right? Everybody wants more content. Well, we are swimming in content, but content doesn't create transformation.
Mhm.
Me telling you about femininity or connecting to your intuition or the fact that you as a woman don't need to earn love or rest or the fact that you can earn abundance and have this magnetism, it's not going to make it real for you. The content isn't transformation, your accountability, your consistency, and your ability to get support in doing this work is what will create lasting transformation. So, to all the women listening, if any of this resonates with you, if you want any of this for yourself, and trust me, I want this for you, then you need to find the support and have the accountability to actually do the work. And I say support really intentionally because another trick of this culture has been to try to keep women alone, to keep women on their own, separated from each other, is what I mean. Right? Women are taught that we're each other's competitors. We're trained to see each other with skepticism.
Mhm.
We often think of each other as bitchy. Very often, we compare ourselves to others. So, all of that, and again, there's no blame. This is just the cultural milieu that we're living in. And it's all pitting us against one another, which is denying us one of our most essential core gifts and qualities and strengths, which is communion and connection with one another. Because what happens, Tara? I know you're going to know the answer to this. What happens when powerful women get together?
We change everything.
You damn straight we do.
We change the world.
Exactly. And that's terrifying for the status quo. So it's much easier to just keep us separated from one another. But we can only change not only ourselves, but everything else when we are in supportive connection to each other. So, ladies, if you don't have your tribe, If you haven't found that connection, if you don't have women reliable enough to call you on your stuff, to hold you accountable, to keep your toes in the fire, to tell you about your greatness and then show you the doorway to it, you got to find them. You got to find your people.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been about community and connection. I mean, you look at throughout my career,
Yeah.
and that is key.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. If you have that, ladies,
Mm-hmm.
you can do anything.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I think about the Me Too movement. I was living in New York City still at the time, and I remember marching with, 1 million women. It shut the whole city down. I'd never seen anything like that. I think about even the way that women in really abusive situations are able to finally leave is when they have the support, often of like a shelter, to be able to go to a safe space with other women in order to be able to remove themselves from that danger. Now, that's a very real scenario, but it's also, if you think about it, it's the only scenario. The only way I think a woman is really able to shift out of a situation that is any degree of danger or challenge or toxicity or distortion is with the support of other women around her.
Absolutely. Oh, I almost wanted to cuss because it was. It
I did
just,
a couple times on your show. I did. Sorry about that.
oh, I didn't
Sometimes
notice.
I get a little heated.
It's just, but it just gives that little, exclamation point because
Yes,
it is. It's very, yeah. And, oh, you're speaking my language, you're talking my talk, your talk, and it's time.
it's time. It's
And
time.
not that it's hasn't already been time, but it's like it's a call to arm, ladies.
Yeah, it is a call to arms, and it has been time for a long time. We haven't had the
Yeah.
power, choice, and agency, right? I think that, like, I think I remember I was just out of college, so I was in my very early 20s, and my grandmother was still alive, and I dedicated this book to my grandmother because she was a woman who lived a life with almost no agency in order to give me a life where I have so much of my own. And I was sitting in the kitchen with her and in my early 20s. And, back then, I wasn't at the point where I was questioning what the world had sold me. And so you're kind of on that program of, oh, I will just go to college and then I will just get married and then I will probably have kids or whatever it is. And she's making me lunch. And this was right after my grandfather died. So she was suddenly free to start speaking her mind. There wasn't any policing around, and I loved my grandfather too, but he was definitely the man of the house. And she says to me, Alanna, I really loved working. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have had kids. I would have just worked. I loved my job. I loved making clothes for my job. She was an extraordinary seamstress. I loved my colleagues. I loved getting up and going to work every day. She had a really humble job. She cleaned the coffee break room and ran the printer machines before there were printer machines. Somebody had to actually do the printing at American Crystal Sugar Factory in Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
And she loved it. And I thought to myself, I'm looking at her, I'm her granddaughter. Obviously, I'm grateful that she had kids because I'm the product of one of them. And it blew my mind because she's looking at her legacy, telling her, I wish I didn't have kids. And I didn't have a choice. I had to. And it's like that really, I'll never forget that moment because I think that was the first moment I realized I had a choice and that it hit home that the women before me did not. So I owe this to her,
Mhm.
you know?
As you're sharing about your grandmother, I'm thinking about my grandmother, and my mother. My mother went to college to get her MRS, right?
I've heard that in a long time, Tara.
Oh, and The things I didn't know, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And what I so appreciate now about obviously agency and all of this is we have this awareness now.
Hmm.
I can now see something that I thought was one thing because I was taught to think that way
Yeah.
versus then what the actual truth is.
Yeah. And, people are still uncomfortable with it.
I
I,
know.
I was, talking this morning about the fact that, I do my own podcast just as you do, and I also put it on YouTube. And I've made the choice to hide all the comments until I can look at them.
Mm,
Not because I want to silence anybody's voice. Lordy, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for people speaking up and out and making change and all of that, but because people get crappy. And
yeah.
I don't have time for that, and we're not going to give that air. And, so there have been, in reaction to some of my YouTube videos, comments that, women should be still in the kitchen. They should, one of the comments I deleted was the worst thing that ever happened was that women joined the workforce. I just thought we're not going to let that breathe. That's an old way of thinking. I don't even need my viewers to entertain that idea or to see that negativity. We're just going to curate that. So people are still uncomfortable with the power, choice, and agency that we have, which again, that's why I issued the public service announcement. Like, look, it's going to be tough. And if you don't have support for some of these shifts that you're going to make in order to become a satisfied woman, then the challenge might be big enough that you collapse. And I see that a lot, Tara. I see that a lot. I see a lot of women start this work
Mhm.
and then come up against the resistance and they just shut down. They just shut down. And I understand. I understand this level of bravery and change and choice. If you don't have the right support network, can be debilitating and impossible.
And I can attest because I've done that. I
Yeah.
call it pulling off at the rest stop and staying there a little longer than just to use the facilities. But
Well, I just hope they don't make a U-turn. A pause
no,
at the rest stop is one thing, but if you're turning around and going back the other way, you know, then that's tough. That's tough.
no. But I've been at the rest stop for years at a time sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, I get back on, it's, I think for me, you talk about grace. That is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because grace is all things besides giving ourselves love, it's compassion and honoring and all of those very, very important descriptors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I advocate for grace all around too, because, just as we haven't, we're here unpacking the box of what it means to be a feminine woman. We're here questioning it. And just as we haven't been taught, it's all been improper training. Just as we haven't been taught what it really means to be a powerful feminine woman with agency, none of them have been taught either.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I chat with women, they kind of go all in on that narrative of toxic masculinity, which is not a phrase I ever use. I'm naming it because it's out in the parlance, but I don't like the term toxic. Toxic to me implies it's just poisonous and can never be shifted or changed. I would say distorted, but distortion means you just give it some light or some clarity. So, the masculine hasn't been taught either. So we can give them some grace too. There are a lot of really fantastic masculine people out there with huge hearts that if they just knew, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, turn a little bit this way, they're all in. Just like when women are given the option to, hey, actually speak up, or hey, actually, your no is sacred, you go all in. But we don't know what we don't know. So grace all
Exactly.
around. Grace, nobody's our enemy.
Nope.
Nobody's doing it wrong. Everybody's okay. We're just shaking it up a little bit. We're getting better training and we're getting better tools and resources.
Right. Well, that's where that awareness comes in.
Yes.
And, none of us were given manuals.
Mm-mm.
None of us know. We're figuring out as we go along.
Yeah.
And, I like to say, starting with the awareness, then I can make the change in what
Yeah.
that means for me. If that's I need to figure out what my needs are so I can be safe and have the security and
Yeah.
all of that that I need so I can be in my, at home in my soul, so to speak.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. And I like that you named figuring out what your needs are. So many women don't even know what their needs are. Nobody's asked them. They haven't asked themselves. I
Right.
had a stunning conversation with a client a while back that really stopped me in my tracks. She said, Alanna, and she's got like 4 kids running around her. She goes, Alanna, I don't even remember who I am anymore. I just want a little patch of grass on this planet that I can call my own.
Mhm. Yeah. I
I cried with her on that day, you know?
absolutely. Oh, wow. And I didn't get to half of what I wanted to ask you.
Well, I'm happy to come back. We can
Oh,
always do a part two.
I'm gonna have you honor that because
Absolutely.
this conversation has been so rich. And, you didn't call it this, but you say question, I mean, you might have used the term questioning. I like to use the word curiosity,
Mm,
and just keep asking those questions, lady,
yes.
right? And, whether it's, what needs am I having to, what is my place here and
Yeah.
how can I help it for somebody, who's bringing up the ranks behind me?
Yeah. And the great thing is they'll never have to wonder because your intuition will tell you. Do I have a need for this? Feel it. Your body will tell you yes or no. Is this need being met? Feel it. You will know. I think it's a real gift. And like I said, I call it a feminine superpower. And when women lean into their intuition and never betray themselves, then we're all going to be on the right track. I'm not saying it's an easy track. I'm just saying it will be the right one for you.
Right. And I just know for myself, and I'm sure, many women will, you know, have the same sort of feeling. It's like when I am, how do I want to say this? When I'm there doing that, I am, meeting my needs and all of
Mhm.
these things. Yes, it isn't easy, and I know I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine that's why you do what you're doing. It's just
Yeah. I do what I do with a sense of humility and deep urgency.
yeah.
Women need this right now. And so there's definitely a fire under me to get the work out there. And in that regard, I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Oh gosh, it's been such a pleasure, and I am gonna take you up on having you back.
Absolutely.
And oh, thank you from the bottom of my heart because I've learned so much from you, and I know you have so much more to give, and looking forward to seeing what all of that is. So,
Thank you so much, Tara.
thank you. Be sure to join us next time, where we continue to cultivate feminine power, explore potential, and provide information and tools to elevate your life. In the meantime, visit our website at thefemininewave.org or follow us on our YouTube channel at The Feminine Wave to watch other episodes, share what resonated from today's episode, and suggest future topics. Your feedback is imperative in helping reach more women seeking to reclaim their essence. Until then, catch the swell of the feminine wave and continue creating the life you deserve. This is Tara Becker signing off. Take care, and we'll see you on the airwaves.